Okay, don't panic. You're a 35-year-old man. You cannot take the liquor into the Walgreens, and you cannot drink it sitting on the ground. You pick up projects, you put them down, and a decade goes by, and you're like, well, I guess that's what happened to that one. I'm basically making up a song in my head as I'm playing the game, and like do 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 do.
What's up, Corey? Welcome to Speed Trap.
Yo, how's it going, man?
Going good. Thanks for coming on. I called you Corey. You're, of course, also Yeroc, which is Corey backwards. I think
It
probably,
is.
yeah, most people figure that out. It took me a while to notice it, too. I think once Doomtab called you Corey out loud, I was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, it's I it's such a funny thing. Like I didn't think there was anything like particular or even clever about it. Um, like I stole the idea from a friend of mine when I think we were like 13 or something. Like he had like an AOL screen name that was like his name spelled
Right.
backwards with some numbers. And so like I stole it and uh it came back to me like it was around the time we'll get into the Smash stuff since
Yeah.
that's like probably a big thing. It came back to me around the time that I joined some of the like internet communities around around the Smash games, and I was like, oh, I'll just use that. And of course, GameFAQs in like 2002, like just Yeroc by itself was available. I'm like, all right, that's me. And then Smashboards was like, all right, that's me. And then from there, I kind of got lazy, and like a new platform would show up, and I would be late to register to it, and I'm like, well, now I don't have that one. Like a couple of other Corys somewhere around the world like started stealing it, and I don't know what happened on Twitch. Like the Twitter handle and the not that anyone uses Twitter anymore, but like the Twitter handle and the Twitch accounts for Yeroc are just like zero uh zero metric, like no
Oh,
name
really?
accounts. I think I might have the Yeroc account from like Justin TV or something, and
Hmm.
I just can't remember what the email or password was. Um but yeah, both of them are just like non-existent, and neither company will be like, yeah, sure, we'll give it to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm stuck with what I got.
With the X's. That's okay, though.
But yeah, but like I mean, it was that or uh, come up with something, and if I can avoid doing something, I am more than happy to just do the easy thing.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, I think our listeners will pretty much know who you are, but you're a sort of multi-category NMG warrior. You have a good 90% NMG time. You've done a bunch of hundo as well. I don't know what your PB is in that. You've done a bunch of vanilla preset categories as well. Yeah, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I do like the non-glitched modes a lot, and I'll play as many of them as I can. Um, Mental note to try and push for 100% with save and quit as an actual category soon again. No, I've been in the Link to the Past community for like I've been actively participating in it for just over 3 years now.
Hmm,
Um,
okay.
and I came to it from indirectly from Rando. Um, and that's a whole story unto itself. Like these whole like my history with video games is a multi-decade spanning thing, and we're coming in at the tail end of it now. It feels like I'm old enough that's like it feels like that. Like I just started doing Link to the Past. Oh, it's been 3 years now. What?
Yeah.
Huh? Where did the time go? And it definitely feels that way compared to other things like Smash, which I've been doing for actual decades,
Right.
plural, which is a bizarre concept, and I don't know how I feel about it. But yeah, like a lot of people in the community, I started watching Andy, and the reason I started watching Andy was not like most people, was that I actually met him in person at
Oh,
late GDQ 2019. Like him and Kelsey are friends with Black Attack, who is a friend of mine, like in real life. And having watched, I told this story in a completely different order, so now I'm getting myself all confused. I've known about speedrunning for a very, very long time. All right, like being part of the internet communities in the early 2000s. I remember things like theelite.net, the game running and perfect dark speedrunning website where they have like IL leaderboards and things. I remember all of those things like being around and like being a thing. Like, oh, FPS speedruns is totally a thing. Super Metroid speedruns are totally a thing.
What time
And I thought
was
they
this?
like early 2000s, like somewhere between like 2002 and 2005.
Cool.
And actually, like I think the stuff with the Elite was probably even earlier than that. It wasn't like it was just one of those things that like, okay, this is a thing that exists. Like it's cool, and I'll like pay attention to videos, like the old like SDA
Yeah.
videos. I would watch some of them if I happened across them. But for the longest time, and I think it was mostly like involvement in Smash, where I was just like, okay, speedrunning is a thing. Like that's cool. I'm gonna go do these other things. For years, it was like that. And then after I met Lag Attack, he was just one of the people. Like I would meet people in person, and I find out that they like streamed on Twitch. So I'd go, kind of like follow them. I didn't really like branch out to like meeting people through Twitch until I joined the community, really.
The Link to the Past community, you mean?
Yeah, like I would watch Lag stream Zelda 1, and then other people I knew, like Green Mario. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's also like an IRL friend of mine from the Smash
Old
community,
school
and he's
Melee
also like a
player, yeah.
top tier Z1 runner.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, he actually has the world record right now.
Wow, nice.
And now that they're all kind of inactive, like he just has it. But it was like Lack is like, do you know Green Mario? I'm like, yeah, I know Green Mario. Like, actually know him. He's like, oh, that's cool. And so it wasn't like until a few years later where I said to him at work, I was like, you go to GDQ like every year. Like he explains it to people. Like he's like, I'm going out of town next week. I'm going to a charity marathon. We're doing a thing, raise hopefully millions of dollars for Prevent Cancer Foundation or whatever. And people are like, oh, it's really cool. And I'm like, I remember when this was just like a little tiny thing in some dude's basement.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you've been watching that long? I'm like, yeah, I think I've seen all of them, but like, I just never went. And so finally one time I was like, I think I'd like to go. He's like, yeah, I've got space in my car. You can come with me. So I roomed with them for like him and some of his other speedrun friends. I'm trying to remember I can't remember who a bunch of them were. But like we went, and then that week of AGDQ just happened to be like the college football championship game, like that Monday. And Clemson was in it, and I went to Clemson. So like, he's like, we're gonna have people over to watch the football game, if that's okay. I'm like, yeah, that's fine, it's cool. So a bunch of people show up, among them Andy and Kelsey, and like they were talking about like streamer stuff, and I was just kind of there, like meeting people for the first time. But they're like, oh, these people play Link to the Past, and I was like, cool. I remember that game from when I was little, and then also the Game Boy Advance version. That was where I was telling somebody that story. I was like, I think I got to like Desert Palace and didn't really know what to do and just like stopped playing the game. And I thought it was on an emulator, but it was actually that GBA cartridge right there.
You still have the save?
Yeah, it's still there. Like, that was how I found out that it wasn't an emulator. It was actually that. I was like, oh, yeah, it's me just wandering around Kakariko Village lost with like a lamp, an ice rod, a sword, and a book. I was like, okay, well, I guess I figured out why I didn't get any further. I didn't know what to do with this book. But yeah, so like watching Andy and Kelsey just do Zelda things. I was like, this seems pretty cool. And I got involved in their communities. I was like, hey, you remember me? This guy that was like hanging around. They're like, yeah. And then the following year, I decided to go again because it was so much fun. And then we hung out some more. We went to Universal. I got lost because like there was like a whole group of people, and like Andy's mod, Nate IEEE 754. Yeah. Like a lot of people, like we were just hanging out in the hotel, like the common area, the lobby or whatever, and they were talking about their plans to go to Universal, and he's like, you can come with us. Like, we don't have a ticket for you. Like some of their friends were like, their uncle like works through the like contractor that Universal does, so they basically got free tickets. Like, we don't have a ticket, but if you want to come with, you can come with. I was like, I could go to Universal. So I go with, and then like halfway through the day, we all sit down somewhere, and I'm like, I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick. So I do, and I come back and they're gone. And I'm like, oh no, because it was like 15 people, and like it's easy to like lose track of everyone. And they had like gotten on the tram to like go from one park to the other, and I'm like, okay, don't panic. You're a 35-year-old man. Like, you're not like lost.
Yeah. No, that's frustrating though.
it was funny. It was funny to look back on and laugh. And so while we were there, I was talking to Nate, and he's like, "Dude, like you can play this game yourself too. Like it's a lot of fun. Like just go buy a Super NT or a Super Nintendo if you want to do that. Just go buy a Super NT and start playing the game." And I was like, I should. And then COVID happened, and a few months later, I'm like, Nate has a point. I should buy this game. So I went and found it and was like, I'll do something. I have nothing else to do. Let's try speedrunning. So I picked up Super Mario Brothers 3,
Hmm.
played it for a while, got frustrated with it was like just doing like no wrong work, really short category. And like halfway through, it's like, do I actually have a run? Yes, no, okay. So I got really tired of that. Never quite got to sub 11 minutes, but
Yeah, that's like a 10-minute run
yeah,
where the hand RNG just absolutely shits on 2/3 of your runs or whatever.
yep, yeah, probably more. I think I got like I was keeping a rough average in my head, and I think I got like it's supposed to be a 1 in 8 chance, and I think I was sitting at like 8% success rate.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, this is fun. This is cool. This is not for me. I picked the game because it was like something I played all the time as a kid, and I'm like, this is where you start out when you pick a speed game. Like just pick something that you could play the absolute shit out of, and I did. And then when I got tired of it, I put it down for a little while, and I don't remember what it was that prompted me, but I was like, you know what, this whole like Link to the Past thing with all the minor glitches and stuff, this looks fun. Spin speed looks really easy. All the movement looks really fun. The game itself is very approachable, so let's give it a shot. I played through the entire game again just as a refresher, even though I had the entire thing spoiled by Rando. Like 100% of the game. Looked up a few things because like some of the hard pieces are a little obscure and hard to find. But like did that, and I was like, this is pretty cool. This is a cool game. I see why people like this. And I don't remember. I think I just wanted to start playing. Like Rando seemed like more approachable than the actual speedrun, even though obviously like there's so much overlap that like you just go learn speed tech and then you apply it to
Yeah.
the panoply of situations that exist in Rando outside of the speedrun itself. But that was still at the time like the vanilla preset didn't exist, so people were still of the notion like if you want to get better at Rando, play the speedrun. And Vizakov, another member of our community, is also a longtime like IRL friend of mine, also from Smash,
Oh, I didn't know
from
you
way
knew
back.
him in person. I knew he was a Melee guy.
Yeah, yeah. He before he moved to Japan, he lived here,
Oh, cool.
so we go even further back than some other people that I know. And so when I told people that I was like getting into it, and they're like, "Oh, go talk to VZ. He plays that game. He speedruns that game." And so I did, and he's like helping me get through stuff and like giving me pointers on where to go. And at some point, I got really frustrated with like trying like ladder is like the wrong thing to do, I think, for like somebody who's just starting out in the rando community. But I didn't know that because my
Probably, yeah.
examples were like Andy, who was like, ladder is great. You just go in and you own up on some people because like the fastest Link to the Past player on the planet or something, like at the time. But like I was like, the ladders, I do like the fact that ladder has such like low commitment. Like you just like, oh, this race seems cool. I'll just go do a seed. Get paired up with somebody, you play. The pairing algorithm is like designed to put you at like 50% win rate.
Right.
So, good luck if you actually like care about those things. Um, and so like yeah, like I'm winning some, I'm losing some. I'm not making like very good decisions, and I'm like I just need to get better. And I'm also getting frustrated when I like do something stupid and like get myself killed, like die to a boss or something like that. And somebody was like, if you really want to like get better at all this stuff, NMG is a super approachable thing, and so is like 100%. If you really want to go crazy with the like doing everything, but like the RNG is like terrible. Go learn those things. And so like I sat and watched. I used Zelma's run, like his 12309 as my template for like how the speedrun works, and picked up a few bad habits from it, but And the more I played NMG, the more I was like, I really just like doing. I don't mind doing this because like early in my Smash career, the stadium modes was something that I spent some time with,
Oh,
not
yeah.
just like multiplayer competitive stuff. And I really liked it. Like it was just something fun to do. Could spend hours grinding little 5-second IL kind of things.
I don't know if you watched the Zelna episode. He was on the podcast recently, and he also apparently started out doing break the targets.
I haven't gotten there yet. I did watch a few of them in preparation for coming on here,
Okay, yeah.
but I haven't gotten all the way through them.
Yeah, he apparently, I think that was his first speedrun, was break the targets.
I did wonder why the name sounded familiar, so that's cool. And I do think I remember like hearing like, oh, Zelna from Canada, like that is neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was like it was exactly that, right? Like you have a strat and you basically speed run the thing
Yep.
and you do it competitively, and it's like a very short. It's not like Link to the Past at all. It's like very short burst, highly optimized, whatever. And I was never especially good. I think I got my total down to like 3 minutes and like 3 seconds, and they're now sitting at like 290. They might even be like 297, 295, or 257, 55.
I don't
Like
know.
total, all the whole character roster, like total time. It's under 3 minutes, I'm pretty
It
sure.
definitely. I remember the grind for under 3 minutes a couple years ago.
Yeah, which is wild. I remember there was like a burst of activity.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think that was it when they were pushing for sub 3 minutes. It sat at like 303 forever. I might actually have like a 330. I don't remember it. It's been forever since I took the memory card's like sitting right there. But you know, you pick up projects, you put them down, and
Yeah.
a decade goes by, and you're like, well, I guess that's what happened to that one. Yeah. So the more speedrunning I did, the less I was interested in random. It's not like I dislike rando. I still like playing. I like picking up a seed every now and then, but for whatever reason, like the actual speedrun was just like more my thing.
Yeah. So just to sort of straighten out the timeline for my own benefit. So you knew about speedrunning in the midst of prehistory. Did you ever actually do any at that point, or was your first intro to speedrunning
I
with the Mario 3 stuff?
I
Or I guess break the
dabbled in
targets.
learning Super Metroid tech in like the late 2000s, like 2007 or something like that, on a really crappy emulator with a keyboard,
Okay.
with a pre like actual serial bus like PS2 like 3 key lockout cell
Oh wow.
membrane
Hell
keyboard.
yeah.
So I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
I mean, the game was cool. It looked super fun. Like I don't think even Spore Spawn Skip hadn't even been discovered at that point. They were
Oh
like,
wow,
maybe
yeah.
it's possible, but we don't know how to get like through. Like we know how to get supers, so we know like the 90% route. You just don't have to go there. But like 100%, the full on like Spore Spawn Skip for Hundo had not been discovered at that point
Gotcha.
when I was looking into strats. And the trip to Kraid was like still hovering around, like if a beginner could reasonably expect to beat Kraid at like the 18-minute mark or something like that,
Right. That's
which
not very
it's
fast
not very good.
anymore.
Not anymore.
But you were really a melee guy for a long time, right? That was your
Right,
focus.
yeah. Like it was just one of those things that was like also out there. So like I watched a lot of people go through. There's like this like melee to speedrunning pipeline. I don't know if people are aware of this. It's not an official thing, but like it's totally a thing.
It's true. There's a lot of washed up melee players who are speedrunners now.
Yes. Um like OmniGamer was like at like one of the early tournaments that I went to, and we met there and then like reconnected like at GDQ. I was like, oh, I remember you. Yeah. What's your life like now? And we spent like I haven't seen you in like 15 years, and we like caught up, and it was awesome. Um Narcy was also like, I remember Narcy from before, like when they were like a prominent melee player in
I
the
don't even remember
community.
that name. Darcy?
Narcissa.
Oh, Narcissa. Oh yeah.
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 Sorry, I just like I knew people that like shortened it to Narcy.
Right, right,
So,
right. Yeah.
but yeah, Narcissa Wright was like a prominent melee player before they were the world's most famous OOT person.
Right.
And there was a bunch of that. Like there was a lot of like overlap when we went to Evo the first time in 2013. A bunch of speedrunners showed up. And I remember hanging out with a bunch of them, like going to their apartment or their hotel room and hanging out. And there's a funny story with that where we're hanging out with a bunch of people, and I remember getting introduced to like a whole slew of speedrunners, like some SM64 speedrunners, some other people who has names I can't remember. And then somebody like pulls a bottle of Maker's Mark out of their bag and is like, "Hey, do you know what this is?" I'm like, "Sure, I know what this is. This stuff is great." And he goes, "Here, this is yours now." And so we're just like wandering. Like we go up to a hotel room and we run out of mixers, and we're like, well, what do we do? We still got like all this other stuff, and nobody's ready to like call it a night. It's only like 8:30, and they're like, well, we'll just go down to the Walgreens. So we're staying in the Bally's Hotel, and then next to that is the Paris, and then past that is like Miracle Mile, and around the corner is like a Walgreens. So, like a mile and a half away. But we're like, let's go walk over there.
Sure.
And it's like, all right, well, what do we do with this? And I'm like, just bring it with you, dude. It's Vegas. I was like, oh yeah. So we're like wandering down the street, like in front of Miracle Mile shops, with passing a fifth of Maker's Mark, but around between all of us. And we round the corner, and there's the Walgreens, and we're about to go inside, and somebody like puts a hand out and is like, hey, you can't bring that in here. And we're like, oh, okay. So we just sat down on like two people went inside to get
Right.
to pick up supplies, and we just like sat down and like started passing the bottle around. And we're like, cool. So we're hanging out for like 5 minutes, and then a police officer walks by and he like looks down at us and like, hey guys, and we're like, uh-oh, what now? And he's just like, I just need you guys to stand up. Like we can't have people like sitting on the pavement because then you're liable to like fall asleep and get trampled or whatever. So like you can hang out, just you can't sit here. You have to stand. And we're like, cool.
That's hilarious.
All right. Those are my two lessons in Vegas. You cannot take the liquor into the Walgreens, and you cannot drink it sitting on the ground.
That's pretty funny.
Pretty much everything else goes.
I'm not at all surprised that Walgreens doesn't want you drinking inside of Walgreens, but that's a very funny rule.
They sold liquor in there. That was the great thing. Like you could just go buy more.
Okay.
Like
okay.
in the Walgreens.
Wow. Vegas, man.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. So yeah, the melee community and the speedrunning community, there's more overlap than I think either side is willing to admit. But also like both hobbies are strikingly similar in terms of like how people approach them. So it's really not all that surprising. I don't know why they hate each other so much.
I don't think
Or
they do they?
they don't outright hate each other, but there was like animosity towards one another for a long time, and I'm glad that I think most of it's passed.
I wasn't aware of that.
I don't remember who started it. I don't think it matters. I just remember people like there were maybe it was just like the people in the community that had some aversion to the other, where they're like, oh, those are speedrunners, we don't, or those are melee players, we don't want to we don't want to associate with them. Even though like at GDQ there was like a tournament room and they had a melee tournament every year.
Yeah.
Or every event, and a lot of people showed up.
Yeah. Yeah, they are very similar in the sense that you really do have to spend a lot of time grinding practice to get good at melee. You have to be very precise and fast in a way that's very similar to speedrunning.
Mm-hmm.
It also has other dimensions on top of that that are not shared, but it does have it
Yeah,
appeals to that,
I think,
sitting down and practicing drill shines for an hour feels very similar to practicing Landmo for an hour or whatever.
yeah, like I said, there's overlap. I think if I were to categorize it, I would say like speedrunning goes very hard in the execution and raw like mechanical fundamentals than pretty much any fighting game, melee included. Even though like the technical barriers compared to a game like Link to the Past are like absurdly high, or at least surface level Link to the Past stuff, like being like literally frame perfect for like an hour and however many minutes is no small feat. In a lot of places, right? The margins on things are very 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 small if you're going to go for them at all. Otherwise, you just do the slightly safer thing and you lose like a second or 5 seconds in some cases or something like that. But like you said, like fighting games have this whole other dimension of actually like playing the game. Like speedrunning is not directly competitive. It's more of an indirectly competitive kind of thing where like you're ostensibly people are competing for time, but I don't think anybody really seriously like approaches it that way. I mean, if you're going for world record, I guess like that's a little more prevalent, but like you're still doing it, or you should be doing it as a test of like your own personal capabilities, and like whether or not you're better than someone else doesn't, or at least shouldn't, factor into it. Whereas in a fighting game, like you're playing against someone else and there's going to be a winner and a loser, and so like your job is to kind of like make sure that you're the one that gets to do the thing.
Yeah.
But like that changes that implicit like dynamic changes the entire calculus. Like there's no like one single optimal one size fits all sort of strategy. Like you have to be like reading your opponent and like gauging their intent and maximizing your chances of having positive outcomes versus like what it is that they're trying to do. Like you have a game plan and you execute on it. You try and counter their game plan and you have to like adapt and change everything around. And like it's like playing Go versus playing chess in a sense.
It does have the property, Melee does have the property that to a very high degree, being faster than your opponent is enough. The rest of the stuff really only comes into play if you and your opponent are about as fast as each other. But you can
Yeah.
kind of just kill people who are not as good at the mechanics as you without really thinking about it
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
much.
But that's where it really,
But it
in
becomes
my
interesting
opinion,
when it's
yeah,
two levels.
when both
Yeah,
players are like right here, like then it becomes super interesting because then if
yeah,
you just like you play up tempo for a little bit and then you change everything around and like the
yeah.
whole thing, it's really crazy. Especially now, like that I've been playing the game for over half my life and like we have net play, so like I can just like fire up the thing and just like go get paired against like random people all hours of the day. And it's like if I just don't do anything for like half a second, how badly are you going to get got by the next thing that I do? Because you're
Mm.
expecting me to like try and jump into it. Like neutral in the it's really weird. Like the neutral, which for people that don't know, is like when neither player is like actually like at advantage, and so like you're basically like vying for, you know, you're pushing for some kind of advantage, whether it's like an opening for a combo or like getting like better stage positioning or something like that. Most neutral these days has devolved into what I call good player tests. Like, do you have enough wherewithal and control to like not run into this bullshit?
Yeah,
And if you do, then it's really fun to just like watch them try and like catch you with stuff, like just catch you sleeping on something that really shouldn't work, but it does if you're not careful. And then in a lot of situations, all you have to do is just like not do anything for like literally half a second or less. Sometimes it's like a quarter of a second. It's like if I wait like 20 frames, you will have anticipated that I did a thing, and then your punish just won't work because I'm either not putting a hitbox where you expected a hitbox to be, or I'm waiting for your like intangible hitbox to disappear and then I get a free punish.
yeah,
And the fact that those margins actually exist for people that are like approximately equal skilled makes the game like ridiculously deep and just the decision trees just spiral out of control.
yeah. I remember back in the day, Mango used to do that kind of shit to people before everyone was, at that level. But in like 2000, I don't know, 10 or something, I remember I never managed to track the clip down. I was trying a couple years ago, but he's playing Fox and he does a rising down air against someone's shield, which is a garbage thing to do. Like
Mhm.
that's not frame safe at all. You get completely owned. He does that. He doesn't even bother shining afterwards. He just immediately starts walking to the right and charges an up smash, and the guy just panics and rolls straight into it. This is like, semifinals at a tournament or something. It's like not some scrub or whatever, but just like throwing
Yeah.
people off by doing something silly for half a
Yep.
second is like, yeah,
That's
that
entirely
stuff's
my
really fun to
playstyle
watch.
these days. It's kind of I feel bad sort of.
How good are you? Like, what's your rank on Slippy?
Uh it's not great. I think I'm like gold 2 or something.
Okay, yeah.
But like I've never like grinded it. I think I've played less than 30 ranked matches
Hmm.
total.
Yeah, I played it a little a few years back. I was like even worse than that. I think like silver, mid silver or something. I hadn't played
Yeah.
for a very long time when I tried to do that, and I found that I did not have the gumption to do the tech skill practice that I need to do to actually be able to play the game and have fun.
I feel like I lucked out in that regard. Like I just at some point I've played the game long enough that I just don't I it just is what it is, right? Like learning frame timings for things was something I did 15 years ago. Like all the different wave dash timings for all the different characters, I can just like pick up a character and like it's this, right? Every once in a while I'll try and play Ganon or Bowser and be like, oh, it's 6 frames, dummy, or 8 frames. Come on, like
Yeah.
don't don't do the thing. And it helps me personally. Like I'm benefited by like separating the two, like the jump action from the air dodge action. So like I jump with my right thumb and then I air dodge with my left, and so like using that to
Oh
like
yeah, I
syncopate the
claw. So
movement.
Yeah.
helps me a lot. Like it helps me learn all the different ones, which you kind of needed in like single player modes, right? Like home run contest when you're doing like L cancels for like every different player. So like having like learning it's a there's like a rhythm to whatever the strat you were doing for like bat drops and stuff. Like it's like jump, drop, jump, catch, drop, aerial, L cancel, jump, catch, drop, and it just was like a thing. And I would think of it that way, like almost musically. I learned just regular mechanics like wave dashing and dash dancing in the same way. Like I just count out like, I have like a vague idea of like how long like 3 frames is in my head, or 4 frames, or 11 frames for like doing a wave dash and then doing some action out of it. So like I'm just like I'm basically making up a song in my head as I'm playing the game, and like do 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 do. And those are how like that's how I learned like the intricate mechanics of the game. And that stuff actually applied to Link to the Past when it was like, okay, how long is a sword slash? How long does it take to walk like a certain, like if I'm walking through Hyrule Castle and I want to shift like one tile or one half tile, one con tile, or whatever, right? Like that's like it takes 16 frames to make that diagonal shift because it's 1 frame, 1 pixel per frame. So I'm like, how long does that take? Oh, it's this long. Doot doot, and then you've moved this many frames, and you like that's the level of control I sought out to like for like learning how to like actually like control your character is like a hugely important thing,
Yeah.
especially in a game that's like as free roaming as Link to the Past. So that was the approach that I took, like learning the game. Like, what are those frame timings? What do they feel like?
Interesting. Yeah. So I guess it would be good to get back to speedrunning at some point. I know we both are melee
I
guys,
guess.
but this is mostly a
I mean, I
speedrunning
could sit here
podcast.
and talk about that stuff for forever, but
Yeah.
but yeah, that was where I took all of that stuff that I had like picked up, all the habits about like personal growth and like learning how to like learn concepts and apply concepts and practice them from melee, and I brought them into speedrunning, and I found a lot of the same things. Like I said, like how long does it take in order to navigate like on specific tiles, because that's in the early game in particular, right? This applies to later in the game when you have boots and you're like trying to find dash lines and stuff. But like in the early game in particular, when you're the only tool you have is your positioning, knowing how long it takes to like get to a certain place, and how long like any adjustments that you have to make, how to do all of those efficiently, and like finding things that like make your movements reliable and consistent is very important.
Yeah.
And I think that was what helped me. I don't like to toot my own horn too much, but I feel like I have like one of the better like early games in the community.
Better than mine.
And so, thanks. Like, but those are the sorts of concepts that are helpful. At least they were to me. I hope if people listening to this want to get better at escape, all they have to do is ask me about some of this stuff, and I can like show them examples of the sorts of things that I did to like try and figure. And some of it's like just finding a technique for pumping that doesn't like destroy your wrists or your hands or
Yeah.
whatever.
Are you a good pumper? I'm not a very good pumper.
I think so, but I'm also cheating where I have like my input display and I'm watching it so that I have like a pretty good idea of like exactly how much effort I have to put into
Oh,
like,
to get a input to register.
yeah. So I'm not like bottoming
Nice.
out the
Yeah.
the thing. I'm actually just watching it, and then I took it to another level once that piano style input visualizer, like inputs over time
Yeah.
thing, like that thing came around. Like I got that and added it to my ridiculous panoply of display things that populate my screen. Um, so I'm sitting there like watching that, and I'm trying to go for 3 frames on, 3 frames off, like a 20 hertz cadence on, or I guess 10 hertz
That
because
hurts. Yeah.
it's six. Yeah,
But
I'm going
unpumping
for
counts
like a
as a
10.
pump too. So
Yeah, I'm going for an even like a 50/50 duty cycle 10 hertz pumping um, scheme, because that gives you two. Well, I guess it gives you four 2 frame or 2 pixel movements per 6 frames,
right.
which is pretty darn good without having to like
Yeah.
kill yourself trying to get some anywhere close to 30 hertz. And obviously 20 hertz is really bad because it does nothing for you. So like I just try and
Oh
go
yeah.
for like
Yeah.
a very measured. I just try and go for a very measured, and at least I get like two boosts per cycle,
Right.
and it feels pretty efficient. It's not as good as hover pumping, but like I don't actually know how hover pumping works, so I don't do it.
Yeah, I was messing with that recently, and I've messed with it a bunch of times and I could never get it, but I actually kind of got it to work recently. I don't think I could do it in a run, but like if I set my controller down on the table and I like reorganize my entire life around hover pumping, I can actually get pretty good hover pumps. But like
Interesting.
I don't know how people like Eddie is doing it mid-run, which seems impossible to me. So I don't know. He's probably
Yeah, I
handling it
that's
differently.
see that's kind of where I lose the whole thread of the thing because like I'm such a I can't like divorce myself from like the more like holistic mindset. And as soon as like if I'm talking to Ari about stuff and he's like, "Oh, like if you sort out hover, you just do whatever." And so he's sitting there with like his controller on the table with like fingers splayed across the two sides of the controller so he's like
Yeah.
holding the sword button down and then he's hovering with his other hand. I'm like, "Yeah, but your controller's on the table, right?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I always hover with the controller on the table." I'm like, "I can't do that. I have no desire to learn how to hover because my desk is like over here."
Right, yeah, same. Yeah,
And so
Aries
like
setup accommodates him having a table to put his controller on all the time, which mine
yeah,
doesn't.
like I have my keyboard is here on like a retractable tray, which is nice for because like my desk is like way elevated for where it's too high to like put stuff on
Right,
to
right.
to be usable. So like I've always played video games like sitting either on the floor when I was a kid and in a chair like at Smash tournaments you're in your chair playing with controller in your lap
Yeah,
and it's always been that way and that's the way that I'm comfortable playing the game.
yeah, same.
So like I have to like figure I found a couple of different hovering techniques now. At first I did the Andy thing where I turned the controller sideways and did that and then for whatever reason, I don't know if it was like I changed parts out of the controller or something, but the whole thing like went to shit and that's why I stopped hovering and like every run stopped doing the Skullwoods bomb jump hover and all of that stuff. I also was like I really just want to get my 124, so like let's stop risking if my hovers aren't consistent, let's just stop with all of
Right.
that. So I just like gave it all up. Um, I eventually like came up with a different technique where I keep the controller in a normal orientation and I still do the same. You can't see this from the camera, but like I still do the same movement, but I'm holding the controller this way across like my knees.
Hmm.
And it's working okay, but it's still like 50% consistency, maybe at best. So like
Yeah.
I try to remember to practice it, but like it's as far as like doing it in runs on the regular, it's just like not a thing anymore.
I never felt like I never got good enough that I could do it in runs. For a while, I was playing enough rando that I was practicing hovering so that I could do hookshot cave, basically, which is like
Yeah,
if you don't know about no logic in particular, being able to hover hookshot cave is really really good because you can get there super early and there's no guarantee you'll ever find the hookshot. So I was like able to do that in rando for a while, but like then I took a break and now I just like have given up on ever being able to hover again.
I mean, yeah, I think when I first started and I was doing a lot more rando in conjunction with NMG runs, I was basically doing like implicit hover practice like every day.
Yeah, yeah,
And then my hovers were really good, right? Like I hovered for my 129. I don't know how many
that's
people
funny.
had actually like claimed that.
I
And I had hovered
think Tanweer
literally
hovers like
every
his 134 or whatever.
yeah, yeah, Tanweer is like people were telling me it's like, oh, here's another Tanweer. I'm like, okay, I guess. And they're like, no, 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 you don't understand. He did mirror shield without getting the Cane of Samaria. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's a little crazy, but sure. But like I had done, I think I completed like after I stopped like dying regularly and I got to the point where I was actually like keeping track of runs when I went from like 140 to 129 and I had like probably like 15 PBs. I hovered every single one of them.
Wow.
And then shortly after that I was like, "Oh, it stopped working." Like right before SGL 2022, it stopped working and I had to like completely relearn the mechanics. And at that point I was like, "You know what? This is just not worth it. I'm just going to I can do it. I know I can do it. But I'm not gonna like sit here and like beat myself up over like being an amazing hoverer because you only need it for like well if you're counting hundo like two things
Right.
and like who cares.
Well, three now with pod route maybe. But yeah.
Yeah, even then like I'm just like I learned it because I already knew how to do right side pod hovers from rando and then when Doom and Aerie showed me the other thing I learned it but I was like never consistent at it. I never
Right.
got it in a run And I was like, I'm good. I'll
Yeah.
take the 5-second time loss. It's cool.
So speaking of that,
Maybe
so
someday.
you got the 124 a little while ago now. I don't know exactly how long, but several months now, right?
Yeah, at the start of this year, so like 7 months ago, almost 8.
And you've been running a bunch of other stuff. Do you have like what are your current ambitions? Do you want to go improve your
Um,
NMG time? Any other
yeah,
categories?
my current ambitions are don't screw this up, right? Like I had a lot of fun we just finished League and had a lot of fun doing that where my entire like practice and like my whole like preparatory routine for League was just do Dark World runs and the Light World will probably sort itself out. Like especially if I haven't run like in the day like at all in the day, like my first Light World is usually pretty darn good. So like get through the Light World and then having done nothing but like Dark World NMG runs for like an entire week, like all right, now we can play the game and actually like internalize that, not just like make it not just say it as like a joke or a meme or whatever, but like yep, now I'm back to familiar territory because this is what I've been doing for literally like 4 days straight.
Right.
And it worked out. I worked out really, really well. Like I played the most consistently this past league of any of them. For me, it was like a whole different thing. Like I was just sitting here like very like I was super what's the word I want to say? I was like I had anxiety, like I was nervous, like I was, you know, my composure was like pushed off center like in the first round against Matt. And then we both played like absolute shit.
The result there
And
was you won with a 131.53.
yes, I died to cold stare and then Matt died to cold stare twice.
Yeah.
So like
Way she goes.
I yeah, I didn't feel like I've been on the other side of that.
Yeah.
So like I felt really awful. But like then I think I had the fastest time the following week. And then at that point,
Yeah, I think so.
it was the week after that. It might have been. It might not have.
No,
It
yeah, I
was
think you're
close. It
right.
was,
You and Relkin both had mid 125, so yours was faster.
and then the last week was me and Relkin, and I knew like as long as I didn't like even if I didn't mess anything up, like I don't know how I win this. And then we both had like pretty darn good light worlds. I was ahead, but he had less blue balls. And then I don't remember if I failed hammer jump or something. And I was like, all right, well, run's over. I just gotta like get to the end now. There's no catching him, and there wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, Relkin's
Because his
is
dark worlds are just so much better than mine, like always.
yeah, he's very strong and also not very volatile. He's pretty consistent at just sort of finishing out good runs, so tough one to catch up
Yeah,
with.
he definitely like thrives on just hitting those performance points. I've noticed it's almost I don't know if consistency is the right word. I think I might use a different one, but like I get what you're saying. Like if it's like when he smells blood in the water, he's just gonna go for it. He's gonna hammer those like really really good consistent times for like every single split, and just like all right, keep up with me. And I'm like I'm trying, but there's nothing I can do. But yeah, then the following week, I started doing other things like random other categories, some hundo, some NMG, some dark world, some things. And the week that I played, I was like, let me try a category for like a week, and I tried to do NMG for like a week, and I like lost my mind. I was like, why am I not having fun with this? This is so stressful. This is so
Hmm.
like every time I get even remotely close to like a good pace, I mess something up. Why is this game impossible? Um, and so like mindset, being cognizant of like where you're at is like a pretty important thing. So right now my goals are, I guess technically my immediate goal is like I'm trying to get a deathless run in low legacy,
Hmm.
which is probably not it's only helped by the fact that I don't have one yet. So like I'm just like, I'll just play. If I die, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
I do want to go back and get a slightly better Dark World. So like I'm gonna work that back into the rotation. And I finally figured out how to like actually enjoy 100%, which is just do whole runs and don't care about
Yeah.
how any of them go. Like if I have like 2 hours to kill, I'll be like, all right, I'll do a hundo run.
Right.
Or if I have like 3 hours to kill, I'll be like, all right, I'll try and get a hundo run going, and then I'll like screw up like the first like three, and then like an hour in, I'll get a run and finish it out, and that'll be that. Because like you generally don't die in 100% unless
Yeah.
you really screw up like Spike Cave.
Right,
And at
right.
that point, you're just like, all right, this is over. I'm finished with this.
I think around the
So
time, like, I guess you could die to Helmasaur, but around the time you get past Helmasaur, there's just no danger left in the run.
yeah, like all the like tricky spots are Spike Cave is the closest thing, and then if you're super sweaty, good time grinder, you might accidentally like get jumpy and mirror too early trying to do bomb dupe or something like that. But that's it. Everything else is just like just play the game and just finish the run.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just working through random stuff, trying to keep NMG muscle memory in a good spot for it's not quite next month. It will be next month, I guess, by the time this gets released. Yeah, I'm very. I guess we should talk about
Yeah, go.
that. Fox and I are the admins in charge of the NMG tournament for SGL this year, 2024. I'm super excited about it. I talked with SGL staff at the event last year about hosting this. And then Fox, you found out about it. We're like, I'd like to help. And I'm like, sure, okay. You've actually like run events before. That would probably be useful. And so like we're in the process of like putting together like a rules announcement, a rules document and making like the full announcement. But right now the plan is to do it feels like a condensed version of League, effectually. We're gonna try and do two stages. We're kind of like sort of modeling this after the rando tournament, which has group stages of pools where you do like you play like round robin pools matches against like 4 or 5 other people over the first 2 days, and then the top X player, I think it's usually two, the top two players advance to the bracket stage, and I think they do like a single elim like top 16 bracket or something like that. So we wanted to like mirror that format, and I was trying to figure out the logistics of like having people like pair off and do whatever. And then I remembered that like, wouldn't it be a lot of fun if we just had like if there was a way to do like group races, which of course there is because it's just NMG. It's not like we have to like generate seeds for people and make sure that there's competitive integrity. Like they can, I mean, they want competitive integrity, but like it's not the same thing as like a rando race where information is paramount to like
Right, there's no environmental constraints. We don't need to make
yes.
sure people are in different rooms or noise isolated or any of that stuff. You can just all sit down
Yeah.
next to each other in a
And I was
practice
like,
room.
well, we did a lot of like group races last year, and they were a lot of fun. What if we just did that? What if we just we just gave people an excuse to do a bunch of group NMG races, and everybody just sat down and played a bunch at the same time, and just made it a community thing. And then we can use that as like track everybody's times and use them for like as like a qualification metric, and then do a bracket for the second half of the event, similar to how Rando is going to do it. I think.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the big race events. I think it should be fun. We haven't worked out all the details yet, but the basic structure of some number of big open qualifier races into a single elimination bracket, it'll look like that. The numbers are to be decided, the times of the race, and so on, but that's what people should expect.
Yep.
And I think it'll be a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
we'll try and have like as exact of a schedule planned out. We're talking with SGL staff about like how the logistics will like mesh with everything else that's going on, because there's what like 8, 12, however many tournaments trying to be scheduled amongst various admins,
Yeah.
and they only have so much tournament room space available. So we're trying to get all that figured out. We're planning to have a schedule announced in advance, however many races that'll be. Ballpark of like 4, 5, I don't know. It depends. But so people will be able to like come in, sign up. The plan is to use race time as like a thing, like you just join a race time room, and then that just like gives us the results, and we track everybody's like best time, and then that'll be your qualifier. Everything past that will essentially be the bracket will essentially be like the XO pairings in like any NMG league Swiss bracket. It'll just be single elim because that's all we'll have time for.
Right.
And I think that'll be enough NMG for everybody at that point, to be honest.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to balance aforementioned mental struggles with like getting frustrated with the game and trying to avoid burnout, because like I just want to participate. But I think that should be fine. like learning new stuff in like low legacy and like just playing hundo and doing dark world runs is probably sufficient to like just keep me, you know, keep me practiced up, moving the elf around and stuff.
Yeah, I haven't decided how much I'm gonna really practice up beforehand. We'll see.
Yeah,
I haven't really been inspired.
I just don't want to do something silly like I need to like work towards like an NMG PB. I do think I'd like to get a 123 at some point, but like it's definitely not in the cards like right now.
Right.
And obviously like there's no benefit to doing that in a sense. So like that'll be a like 2025 project if and when I'm also like one other thing that I guess I can plug that stuff later, but like I'm trying to figure out like what other speed games do I want to pick up now that I feel like I'm coming to a steady state thing in A Link to the Past. Like I should probably branch out and do other things. So like I'm having my community tell me like what the next speed game will be that I pick up. And I think that's gonna wrap up like right around the time that SGL starts. So then I'll have like, oh, as soon as SGL's over, I can go do this other thing, whether it's like Zelda 1 or Super Metroid or Little Nemo the Dream Master, which is a fun childhood game of mine.
Oh,
So
I've never even heard of it.
game's super fun.
Cool.
It's based on an old story, like an old British like fairy tale kind of thing. The kid he goes to like the dream world and it's been like overrun by it's very stereotypical like late 80s early 90s like hero's journey kind of stories that you see in video games.
Yeah.
It's like been
Huh.
overrun by the Nightmare King, so he like goes to all the different like areas of dreamland and tries to save
Oh
King
yeah.
Morpheus and his yeah.
Here you are saving a dwarf in a top hat in a mushroom forest.
Yeah,
Classic.
Flip is the that's Flip. They made a cartoon about it. I think it's like a DreamWorks cartoon,
Oh,
like
cool.
pre 3D animation
Yeah.
thing. I don't know if it's actually DreamWorks, but it had that feeling. It was an okay movie. It was a kids movie. um, it was yeah, it was a fun game that I played a lot as a kid, and I was like, oh, people speedrun this game, like so like people that Doomtap knows are like fiendishly good at it, and I'm like, oh right, you can speedrun anything. That's
Yep.
how this works.
Yeah. How long is that speedrun?
Like 20 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's the shortest one, and then Zelda 1 is like half an hour or so, depending on how far you want to take it, and then
Yeah.
SM is like what 40 minutes to an hour.
It's
So
it's like 41 minutes if you're the world champion. Or I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just under 41 if you're the world champion.
Yeah, it's not quite
It's an
under 40
hour when
minutes
you're
yet.
starting out. But yeah.
Probably more than that. I think I'm actually going to do 100%, so
Oh yeah.
it'll be about the
Hour
same length
15, hour
as
20, yeah.
yeah, it'll be about the same length as Link to the Past starting out, which is fine. But we'll see which one of those. I'll probably eventually do all of them, but whichever one I tackle first is up to the community. So come vote on things.
Do you find the shorter runs appealing? I know you're a famous resetter. Do you like shorter categories for that reason, or do you care?
Um, I definitely had to adjust. There was like a mindset adjustment thing when I picked up A Link to the Past, and all of a sudden I'm doing an hour and a half long run, and I lose like 5 seconds in escape, and I have to be like especially early. Like these days, I'm like I can't like if I want this to be if I want this run to feel productive, like I can't be losing 5 seconds at the very start of the run. But like back then, I was like, you know what? It's not the end of the world. Like you have minutes of time save left. You're still at like a 132 level. You have 2 minutes to go on your initial goal. You can't be sweating like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And of course, like I sort of didn't listen to myself, but like in the back of my head, I knew I needed to, like, I did have to like rein that in a little bit. And now, like I said, like trying to avoid burnout, I'm definitely doing. I'm trying to force myself to do a lot more of that by just doing whole runs and not being focused on getting a PB. Like that's not the object anymore. The object is to just play the game and use it as practice.
Does that help you avoid burnout? Or does it just feel like you're forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do?
Um, it helps because I have to like I look at it. I feel like I look at it in a different way from most people. Like especially late last year when I was actively on that PB grind. The runs were strictly PB attempts. I felt very good about where I was at with my skills. Like I knew they were good enough to get, and obviously, like all the runs were like netting some measure of improvement. right? Getting more consistent at various things or whatever. And I'm still like doing like offline practice in between and all of that. But like I felt very good with like where my skills were for the most part. It was just like I felt like I couldn't go like 20 minutes without making some kind of like catastrophic error and losing like 10 seconds. And if you lose 10 seconds in like the light world, you can make it up later, but like you don't have any more room for error. I don't know, for whatever reason when I'm doing like PB attempts, like my brain is like there's a maximum speed that you can go ostensibly. If I don't know, I'm not sure how to explain this, but like there's let's say like an optimal run, right? Can only go so fast. Even though we know that like the task is like 120 or actually well, I guess there's even like a 119 at this point. But like realistically speaking, if you like average out all of the imperfections and just say like the run can only be so fast. So every mistake you make pulls you further away from that and closer to, you lose margin on the goal time that you're trying to get. So every mistake is like a cumulative thing. And so like I would just hit a threshold where like I've made too many mistakes. I don't I'm not having fun trying to continue this run anymore. And I'm just, you know, or I would die and be like, well, I can't PB, so just reset. I have since like tried to like pull like rein that in and pull away from that entirely and just be like, there are still pieces of this that I can like try and pick up. I think you've talked to various people on this podcast even about like how they what their approach is to
Yeah.
stuff in general and whether or not like I think Bidey was talking about how he runs against goal times and if he's not like meeting goal times he's just like this is pointless. And so I feel like I resonate a little bit more with that, or I did historically. Like I resonated with that a lot more. Like I've made too many mistakes. This is not fun anymore. I don't like running from I don't like being behind. I don't like trying to continue runs where I've made like drastic errors and now I have to play perfectly to like try and salvage this run. Like every once in a while I could do it, but like as a normal mode of behavior, it just wasn't enjoyable to me. It was stressful. And so it felt easier. It felt less stressful to me to just reach over, turn off the console. And obviously like, it's a pain in the butt to like start the game over again and keep yourself on because if you restart, I think that's what happens with a lot of people is like every time they reset, they start feeling like impatient. Like I did all this already. I want to just be done with this. And you can't do that. Like the game doesn't run faster just because
Yeah.
you don't want to be in escape anymore. Like I felt that too. After like 5 or 6 reset runs, like I'd start making mistakes in escape because I was getting impatient. But like it felt less stressful to just reach over and kill the run entirely. It's like I'm just let it go. Just start a new one. Because then you have now your buffer is intact, right? You're back at the beginning. You're back at the top of your optimal
Yeah. You haven't lost
curve.
any time
And
yet.
yep. And so that was less stressful to me. It was still stressful because the more mistakes you made, the more mistakes I continued to make. And I was like, once I got the 124, it's like I can't keep doing this. I have to change something and figure something else out. So I'm taking a different approach now.
Yeah. My feeling has always been that it's easier to get better than it is to spike the best run you can at your current skill level. So I've never really cared
I think
that
you're right.
much
I
about
do
any
think I do
particular
think that
run.
is easier to do.
So with the occasionally I've had exceptions. When I was trying to go for 125, I was like very consciously trying to spike the run instead of getting better because I kind of just needed a break, but I wanted to hit the 125 without rusting.
Mhm.
But other than that, I've pretty much kept to that philosophy. Is like any particular run doesn't matter that much because the goal is getting better, with the exception of like times that I'm feeling bad because of outside. Like if I'm having a really bad week, then I'll like feel worse about everything or whatever. But like in general,
Mhm.
I've always approached it of like it's not worth it to freak out about like getting the 124, 40 or 59 that I could probably get today. Like it's so much easier for me personally, just the way I approach the game. It's so much easier to just be like, whatever, I'll get it in a week when I'm 10 seconds faster, or in a month when I'm 10 seconds faster, and it's easy or whatever.
Yeah, I'm starting to come around to that sort of mentality. And I think most of it's just like it's a lot easier to do, like I said, in newer categories because the margins are just all over the place.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to use that as like a way to like kind of like retrain my mindset while playing the game. And then also like very conscientiously Like I'll throw in like 100% run, and like I said, I do those. I try and do those like basically like no reset because there's so much of it that's just not out of your control.
Yeah. The
Like
time at the end. Yeah.
you cannot grind 100% the same way you can grind other categories. You will drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
So like I'm using that and consciously taking a slightly different approach with like the other categories that aren't NMG, like any percent, and also 100%, which I just do completely differently. And I'm trying to like retrain myself to kind of like be more, what's a good word for that? It's not present. It's almost like the opposite of present in terms of like how you're like just play the, I guess it is being present, just playing the game and just enjoying the game for what it is and not really worrying about the end result.
I think it is taking the long view.
Yeah, it's a lot less like results oriented thinking, I think, which is good.
Yeah.
Magic players know all about that. We haven't even
Yeah.
talked about Magic, but I
That's
don't
true.
think that's, yeah. I told you I can keep. We've been here for over an hour. I can keep going.
Yeah, I mean we can keep going for a while if you want. I know it's pretty late for you, but I
I
guess.
it's Friday night. Who cares? Like that's the cool thing for me. Like I have so many. I actually don't have that many hobbies, but like between speedrunning, fighting games, and like playing cards, like they all hit like slightly different. Like they have like related concepts, but like they all have their differences. And I know you do all of those things as well, so you know like
Yeah.
how they all work. If I wanted to put them on a spectrum of like raw execution and technical ability versus, I'll call it more of like a mental game. But that's not really the right thing. What if I put speedrunning on one side, which is almost entirely physical mechanical execution
Yeah.
against a specific goal, and put something like playing poker or Magic the Gathering or whatever on the opposite end of that spectrum, where there's almost zero like technical ability and all of it is like thinking through like problem spaces and probabilities and like navigating a win condition. And fighting games are somewhere in the middle because you're competing with somebody in a world like a strict mechanical world with rules that you have to follow and you have to like leverage technical ability to like execute on whatever your game plan is. Those are the ways that I think about those, like all those different hobbies, and like floating between them all at various points is usually pretty helpful. Like if I'm getting burnt out on speedrunning, I'll go play Magic with some friends and think about something completely different for a while. Or go play Smash with people and like hitting buttons but want to exercise different parts of my brain.
Yeah. Yeah, Magic is a lot about, I don't know, I don't feel like it doesn't feel a lot like speedrunning to me. Basically for the
That's what I'm
reasons
saying.
you just said, yeah.
Yeah, it's very different from speedrunning.
You're sort of trying to solve problems in general because you don't know exactly what the shape of the problems will be yet.
Exactly. Like you know what your win conditions look like. I guess rando's kind of like the same thing,
To an extent,
which I think
yeah.
is what I think that's what's so compelling about it to certain people. It's not for me. Like I like rando. It's a fun thing to do every once in a while, but like the competitive side of it, I can't. Maybe it's just I'm not practiced enough. Like I haven't spent enough time like invested in like working through, like I've got the raw technical stuff, right?
Yeah.
I feel like Bitey with like just point me in a direction. I kind of wanted to join the pilot spoiler tournament, but I wasn't able to find somebody that wanted to drive.
Hmm.
But I was also like, we're doing preparing for SGL, and I was busy with League and like doing a bunch of other stuff. So
Yeah.
like also like most people either overlook. I don't know. I didn't put a lot of effort into like finding a teammate either. But like I get that's why like that's I feel I identify a lot with that. Like just give me something to do. Tell me where to go and I'll enjoy this a lot more than like trying to think through the problem on my own, because in order for me to play the game as well as I do, it takes up like far too much focus. Like I can't be sitting there thinking through the logic chain and
Yeah.
executing the at the on the game at the level that I'm accustomed to. Like I
Oh
have
no,
to
yeah.
I would have to like completely change the way that I play the game and like dumb it down, like dumb down the strats that I do to like get through rooms in order to devote more time to thinking through the logic because I'm less practiced at it, right?
I would have to do that too, and I
And
don't think I can. But
yeah,
when I play rando, I play like I'm 5 minutes slower than I am in NMG. Like, because either I'll
yeah,
just
I don't know how
not
to
be
do
able
that.
to think about the rando at all, and I'll like get through a dungeon really fast and then stand still for 30 seconds thinking about what to do next, Or like I
Yeah,
cannot do the rooms while I'm thinking about the logic.
yeah, and me, like, I haven't figured out the right way to like develop those skills without feeling like frustrated because I'm an extremely competitive person. I was listening to a different podcast with Dr. Earworm talking about his journey through rando, and he was like, I thought I was like, I thought it wouldn't be a thing like that it would bother me. Like I'm not that competitive of a person, but it turns out I'm an extremely competitive person, and it just drives me crazy when I can't like do the thing that and I'm like, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
That's totally me. That's why I don't like playing rando as much as because like the core conceit of the thing is super interesting. Like you take this mechanically robust, very like enriched world, and it's got all these systems and rules, and the mechanics are fun, and just playing the game is very satisfying. And then you slap this whole mess of like problem solving and imperfect information and like puzzle like solving a puzzle on top of it. It sounds really cool. It sounds like one of the funnest things ever. But then as soon as you turn it into a race, now you're playing a game of inches and you're trying to like make educated decisions about like, which things like I listen to Telethar talk about like which skips are worth making and which ones aren't. And I just like immediately lose the thread of the conversation because I'm sitting there trying to like wail the things out. And I'm like, how on earth am I expected to actually like be able to do all of this stuff and play the game at the same time at the level that I'm accustomed to?
Yeah.
And the answer is it's impossible, so I don't do it.
Yeah, you have to lower your expectations for execution to free up your brain.
Yeah. I don't know. I maybe someday I'll get back to it. But like for now rando is a thing that I do for fun.
The cool thing about spoiler to me is that it lets you do the high octane execution stuff, but different things. So it's
Mhm.
not just exactly the same rooms every time. You get to do different stuff, but you can still focus on the execution, which I think is really fun. That's also, I
Yeah,
think, part of why uh, like glitch categories are appealing. Just you get to do different stuff while it's focusing on execution, which I just find really compelling.
yeah, I did a they have spoiler on the ladder this season. And so I did one this week and it was fun. I got absolutely destroyed, but that was mostly because we weren't getting the lamp, and so
Mm.
I got halfway through, like I got to Meyer and I went into the basement and I dashed left and went, I can't see anything.
Yeah.
I have ruined like I have everything I need. All I have to do is like dash straight down, bonk into the railing, hook shot to the left. And it was a Godmire too, so like I hadn't flipped the switch, and that actually made it worse.
Mm.
Eventually, was like I hadn't flipped the switch, so like I'm sitting there trying to like hit the first switch, and then I walk into the next room and I can't go anywhere. I'm like, ah, crap. Right,
Classic.
like
Yeah.
that first mistake of like dashing over to the pot to go try and put the thing down was like, ah, crap, I can't see. Well, there goes Spooky. And like my entire game plan just like unraveled. So I spent like 10 minutes in Mire, like trying to I died like 3 times in the basement trying to get through it.
Yeah, I've been there.
And then I think I also died on Trinix after the fact. So I lost by like 20 minutes, but I had fun. Like I found the route. I had all of the stuff. I basically did it. I was a little slow because I'm just not practiced at doing that. Like the rando execution feels very much more like on the fly, like off the cuff. Like like I kind of think of it as like there's like archetypes of things that you want to do in rando, but they're not as like concretely defined as like NMG. So you just kind of like play it by ear and like fudge it. As long as you're not like breaking your skill floor too much, it's generally okay. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to be like optimal. In fact, you don't want to be optimal. Like you don't want to spend so much time just making sure that you're eking all of the frames out. Like there's a there's a minimum. Like this is good enough. You don't have to go too much faster than this. Like if you're playing somebody you know you're going to lose to otherwise, then yeah, you kind of have to like take those risks. But generally speaking, the goal is to like finish the game. So do it comfortably.
Yeah.
So I did all of that and I like hit the route. I even like lucked out where I completely forgot flippers and then they were just like in the front of Skullwood, so I just like went back over there and got them.
Not too bad. Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun, and I do want to do. Maybe that's a thing I work in, like one week where I just do instead of doing speed runs, I just like do a practice spoiler seed like every day.
That'll probably be fun. Spoiler's really good. Really good mode.
Yep, that's like I don't know. That's all I got.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot of stuff here. I think it's a good place to wrap it up. If you got anything else, any shout outs or anything before we head out?
Just a quick shout out to the SGL people because I'm very excited to. It sounds like we've got a pretty good level of interest in terms of like people in the community, like people in the speedrunning communities in particular, that are like, yeah, I really want to go to this and come hang out with people and meet people. I'll do my whole spiel about like how great in-person events are, right? Having participated in them for quite a long time, right? I was one of the few people who can claim that they were part of the Melee community before it was like an in-person sort of thing. It was just like it was an internet community and they all talked a bunch of shit to each other about like who was actually the best. And then somebody got it into their head to like host an actual event, and eventually that idea like happened in enough like local places that they were
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna host like a big event, and if you guys want to come to it, like you can come stay at my house for a weekend, and we'll have like an actual tournament and decide who's really the best. And then they just kind of kept doing that for like 20 years.
There was a time where it was genuinely not known yet if West Coast or East Coast was stronger.
Yeah,
Like there was a time when people like genuinely didn't know between like, Ken and Ozit.
there was a point where like people like didn't know each other, and
Yeah.
that was really strange. Like you would like go to an event and you would meet somebody and they would tell you who they were, and you'd be like, you're not at all like how I pictured you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the wrong person for that because like no, I feel like a lot of people, the concern that I has been voiced to me the most repeatedly is just like an anxiety over like, are these people gonna like me? Are they gonna like, am I gonna get along with anybody that's here? And like, just ordinary, I'll say social anxiety, because in a pedestrian sense, like that's what it is, right? You're feeling this apprehension over being in a space
Right.
with
Will I
other
fit in?
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the answer to that, without being dismissive or minimalistic, minimalizing like people's actual concerns, like the answer is it's going to be fine, because
Yeah.
all of the people there probably felt that at least on some level, or some amount, before going to the first one that they went to.
Hmm.
And then they met people, or they got to get there and got to be there and had like their friend group, and then that friend group introduced them to another group of people, and then they, and they're also like they're playing whatever their rando game,
Yeah.
or their speed run, or just doing, just being there and hanging out. And it's a lot of fun because we're all there sharing our love of these games. There's something really fun about like being able to do that in person. You'll understand if you've never been to a live event before. You'll understand, like as soon as you sit down and like meet somebody for the first time, something will happen. You'll have an interaction with somebody and you'll learn something, and you'll teach something, and then you'll have made a new friend, and now maybe like you'll get to parlay that experience into some other like more normal social interaction where it's like, hey, we're going out to dinner, do you guys want to come with us, we're going to go do whatever. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to feel like left out. Like there's some weirdness there with like, finite limitations in a physical universe where like only like certain sized groups of people can like go to a restaurant or whatever, and people don't want to like be like left out. Like there's some of that, but like for the most part, like you'll find a group and then the group will be inclusive, which is one of the cool things about the speedrunning community, is they're just like inclusive like by default. Like that's just the way that they all tend to operate. So like just know going in that most of the apprehension that you're feeling about being in a new social situation, it's mostly in your head. Like most of the people there will be quite pleasant to be around, and it'll be a lot of fun. So
It'll be
look
in a
forward
lot
to
of
that.
other people's heads too. Like I think that,
Yeah, also recognize that you're not alone.
yeah, and I think that these events are very selected for people who are weird and neurotic in those ways. Like I don't think that people who are like, super socially perfectly adjusted spend enough time in front of Twitch to like have friends that they want to fly across the country to meet. Like you're meeting your people.
Yeah,
Like
we're all a bunch of
we're
nerds.
like
It's
you.
great.
I've mostly gotten past the anxiety of walking into a room of people and like feeling like an alien. But I had it for a long time. Like I get it, and it's I don't know. I understand feeling that way, but like Corey is saying, it's real and it's understandable, but it's nothing's gonna go wrong. It's gonna be fun.
It's like anything else you've never done before. Like there's some discomfort at the newness of it, but like you'll get in there and you'll figure it out and you'll meet some friends that'll help you like through, like knowing somebody. If you stream a lot and have like a community and have like some regular people that you talk to, and some of those people are there, like now you'll just have like these little anchor points to like
Yeah,
to go off of, and it'll make transitioning to a place of more comfort a lot easier. It'll be a lot of fun.
yeah. I hope we just talked somebody who wasn't gonna come into coming, and
I
I
hope so
hope we
too.
can talk some rando players into joining the NMG qualifiers. That's my hope.
Yeah, I really want to stress. I guess we'll do that again. We want this to be like it's a speed running event, so it's ostensibly competitive, but like we especially want the preliminary stage to be as inclusive as possible. We want everybody that has a notion that they want to participate, that they are welcome to come and do it. The bracket is because, it's tournament and we kind of have to do those things. But like we don't want people to feel the absolute last thing we want is for people to feel like they are like not welcome to come and participate, especially at the in the preliminary stage. Like we want everybody to just like come and have a good time. And if you know, even if you don't really know the NMG speedrun and you just want to come hang out for 2 hours, like we are more than happy to have you come and try a run, ask people for advice, like, hey, I'm stuck on this, what do I do? And we'll help you out. That's all I got. If anybody's even considering like coming and being a part of it, I encourage you to just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think we'll close on that note. We hope to see you all at SGL. Thanks for coming on, Corey.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.